So yes, Tiffany Hamilton was going to be our illustrious moderator today, but unfortunately COVID has taken her out, as it has a few folks, so you will see a few changes in the program today. But I am very, very delighted to be the person that is going to be guiding our discussion today. And so I'm going to start with just some introductions, give you all a moment to introduce yourselves to our audience. Feel free to share a fun fact about yourself if you like, no pressure, and then we'll get into some of the amazing questions that everyone had put a lot of thought into preparing for today's session. So, Farah, we can start with you.
Hello, everyone. I want to say nice to meet you, but I hardly can see you. But I'm Farah Noor, Chief Science Officer of Lucent Bioscience. We established our company 2015 with 5 co-founders. Right now, we are about 50 people with a factory and scale in manufacturing. So I would love to share our experience here with you guys. And yeah, glad to be part of this discussion.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raz Gulia. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pocket Pills. We are an online pharmacy here in Canada. We are a national online pharmacy with fulfillment facilities in BC, Manitoba, Ontario, Halifax, and Montreal. Basically helping Canadians control the cost of prescription medications. We're roughly 200 team members today. We started back in 2018. It's been a hell of a ride for the last 5 years. I'm looking forward to having a great discussion today.
Hi. Hi. Great to meet you guys in person, finally. And great to meet you guys as well, all of you. Guys being colloquial for everyone. I'm Samantha Mathews. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called LOCI. And I started this company with the vision of what if buildings could tell us about themselves, environments could tell us about themselves, specifically for what we need to know about them, rather than get lost. And it's funny because as I say this, I'm looking up at my 2 arch nemesis, which are white normative culture exit signs. You'll see on the outside, actually in the foyer, there's green person running through a door exit signs. So in a forced to reckon with moment, I guess I could explain my company is trying to kill those exit signs and build those evacuation signs. And I have been building that for the last 5 years. I work with top 10 Fortune 10 companies from around the world. And I'm trying to solve the crisis of enterprise technical debt caused by the mismanagement of venture capital.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. Accelerating adoption of critical health and climate solutions. This was an opportunity to bring together some incredibly thoughtful leaders in the areas that they have been growing their ventures to really share some of the highs and lows and challenges that they have experienced in building, with the hopes that somewhere in that that you will take some of those insights and hopefully, think about them, apply them to your own practice. So, kicking things off, Raj and Farah, I'm going to direct this first question to the both of you. What were some of the key steps to building and scaling your health tech and climate tech solutions companies? And so, Farah, happy to get going with you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. Well, to me, or to our team, the first thing was to recognize the need. If you want to establish a company, if you want to establish a business, you need to figure out what is the need, what kind of pain you are trying to cure, what's the question you try to answer. So for us was about all these food security problem, climate change happening. We're all hearing that by 2050, we need to feed and produce enough food for more than 9.8 billion. So that's a huge issue that we will face. And also agriculture is one of the major food industry that produce enough food for us, for our animal, but we don't have enough land, right? Do we? We do need to improve efficacy of agriculture. What we are doing right now, we are taking a lot of nutrition and a lot of minerals and resources out of the soil, and we have to give it back to soil to make it reproducible, right? So what we are doing, we apply a lot of nutrient to the soil the way that 50% of that actually never get to the plant. So it run off to the groundwater pollution, or make nitrous oxide. Climate change happens through all of these greenhouse gas emission. So what should we do? The question, and we aim to solve this problem the way that the solution wasn't around if it was, right? So innovation is the next step. You find the goal, you find the problem, and then you need to come with a solution. The solution we aim ourselves to bring sustainability to crop nutrition in ag industry. What's the next step? After that, team up, make a trustable team that you guys all wanted to work with each other, trust each other, and share the journey. And then execution of your dream and your goal is the other one. And as soon as you plan and make the strategy how to want to, step by step, move forward, now a lot of doors are open for an entrepreneur. Okay, now you need to adapt with market, know the market. Now you need to know about the resources. How do you want to raise money? How much you are willing to sacrifice and invest on your company from your time, from your life. And but you will learn a lot. We learned a lot during all this year, a lot of failure, a lot of happy moment that, we found it. But since all these resources all around, I would recommend we just learn, we educate ourselves, we just don't blindly jump in the middle of something. We know what we want, and after that, we do the risk analysis. We learn about the industry that we want to get in. We need to know about the legal requirement of that industry, how you need to go. Market adaptation is another story. It's a big issue that when you invent something, you introduce that, how to introduce that, we made a product, in Lucent, we made a product. If our product is adopted with current machinery with the farmer or not, right? That's an issue. So you need to have a big view from beginning to end, and then a step back and a start. I think that's a good advice for all of us.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Farah. Raj, over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you, Farah. It's kind of the similar story with Pocket Pills as well. When I kind of look at the scalability or the starting a company, basically 4 steps I look at. One is, what's the problem? What problem we are solving? Do we have the right team for it? And do we have the technology? And the solution we're going to build, is that solution a scalable solution? Is there going to be a market for it? So I'm going to start with the problem, with the pocket pills, right? Pharmacy, we recognize that pharmacy hasn't changed in the last 100 years, right? It's been as is. Pharmacists kind of behind the counter dispensing the medications. And we decided we got to change the experience. How can we provide a frictionless, personalized, high-touch digital pharmacy experience to Canadians? That was the kind of goal for us. Think of a scenario, a mom managing, typically in a household, mom manages medications for everybody, right? A mom is managing medication for husband, for kids, let's see, allergy pills, asthma, and a couple of her own medications, right? It'll be really hard for her to manage medications, make sure all the refills are coming home, doctor's appointment. It's a really tedious job. And our goal was that what can we do at Pocket Pills to provide the power to the customer? So customer has the control to manage their medications. That's kind of what was the problem, and we decided to open the online pharmacy. Going back to the next topic of team. From my perspective, team is crucial for the success of any company, right? And startup is like a marathon with a sprint speed. It's a never-ending process, right? You continuously running, iterating, making changes to it. That's what you have to keep doing. And finding a right team is crucial in the early days because that is going to be the foundation for your company. So I really focus on the team. I really ask all the team members, understand what are the challenges and what are the things that we collectively going to achieve. Next is innovation and technology. That plays a crucial role again for the success of a company. And at Pocket Pills, in order for us to provide a frictionless pharmacy experience, the technology has to play a role. Typically, retail pharmacies, as I mentioned, it's been as is for the last 100 years. And what sort of technology do you need? How do you decide on the technology? And I'm going to just share an example that at Pocket Pills, we get roughly 50 to 60,000 text messages per month. Now you'll be asking, what are these text messages? What we wanted to do is that we wanted to provide control to the customer. So customer can place their medications through the app and talk to the pharmacist from the convenience of their home, and meds get delivered at home. So we want to provide the experience. And the one thing we identified is the communication is the key. You want to make sure that the patient is able to touch with pharmacist anytime. And hence we get these 50 to 60,000 text messages per month. At the early stage, there was a lot of challenges. How many team members you're going to put who are going to review these text messages and reply? And we decided to develop an AI and a machine learning system that can recognize all the escalations, negative sentiments, and any customer behavior-related challenges. And with the help of that, the AI can predict and bubble these things up and give into different teams in order to improve the customer experience. So it's important that how do you kind of recognize, how do you build the technology? And the last part is scalability, which is huge. From my perspective, majority of the startups die at the scalability level because this is the most crucial where you're actually looking at the profitability, you're looking at the product market fit, you want to make sure that the company is growing and successful. There's a lot of steps you have to take care at this stage. You have to make sure right team, reporting structure, there's proper OKR structure, proper monthly and quarterly business reviews. So a lot goes on. You want to make sure that your startup, the tiny startup that was in a bunch of people working and trying to solve a problem is now turning into a well-oiled machine, and which is very hard. We're going through this process, and I can see that it's a tough job. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you both so much. It's interesting that two of you had sort of touched on a couple of themes that are kind of form a bit of a framework that we use in supporting the ventures we at UBC, which is team, tech, traction, and treasury. And we sort of talk about those 4 T's as a bit of a framework. So I appreciate that the sort of thinking around that is, to a degree, there's some of these common sense principles when we think about, kind of building businesses and whatnot. But we also hear a lot of go, 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 and an overnight success. And really, you could probably attest to, sure, an overnight success may be 10 years in the making. And oftentimes, it's that piece that people don't necessarily see. It can be very difficult in the beginning, and then we hear in the media especially all these stories about this phenomenal success and this major kind of gap, kind of in the middle. So my next question, I'm going to turn over to Sam to have you share some thoughts. And that is, focusing around when we're starting to build these new companies, what advice is actually helpful and what advice is potentially harmful? And how do we seek out the right type of supports that is going to help us calibrate the reality with that drive and passion to pursue our goals and objectives?
Thank you for this question. And since I'd like this to be more of a conversation with my peers, I think I can answer it by some notes in terms of how we're framing things. I guess I'll start with, we were on the front of the book. So I heard you talk about taking a step forward. How do you take a step forward, right? And I see your business as, actually, you said it also, you talked about how to push forward and then you described stepping back. And I thought that was really interesting because you didn't say to take a, you kind of got to your point where you're like, you really have to take a step back through what the constraints are, through what the community is, through what all these things are, before you can actually act or make a difference. And when I think about whether or not, you know, food security and agriculture, perhaps like a question that would be more taking a step back is like, what, rather than what can we improve, what can we ask more of from nature to be more effective? What I actually heard and see in your business is that you're trying to restore the balance to the soil, right? So you're actually trying to figure out what was there before, right? So your entire business is taking a step back and looking where there's missing balance. And it's not asking nature to be more effective, right? It's asking us to be more effective by seeing what was out of balance. And so that's sort of part of an answer to that question. And then for Raj, thank you. So you said, well, like, this interesting thing about 60,000 text messages from customers, right? Imagine if you said, and what you were trying to make a point about is communication is the key, right?
That is right, yeah.
And so imagine if you said, we get 60,000 communications from the people we serve.
That's right.
Right? So it's just a reframing. And you both said the same thing, right? You talked about some pretty important principles that are pretty ancient. But I think the issue is when you say 4 T's, right? Team, tech, traction, treasury. What I hear when you say team is community. What I hear when you say tech is tools. And what I hear when you say traction is receptiveness, right? And what I hear when you say treasury is captured energy. And so I think to answer your question, we have to reframe how we speak. And I think that the willingness to change how we speak is how quickly we'll move forward to solve the things that are most in crisis.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. Okay, I do want to turn there's so many things we can be discussing in our conversation today. I'm also happy for you to just like popcorn out some other things that are inspiring you in our discussion. But I did want to kind of dig into one of the things that you brought up, Raj, and that was the importance of team, and you noted community. And maybe you could share with us, I'd love to hear from all three of you, but Raj, we'll start with you. What are some of the things that, you know, in building that early team and in cultivating the culture within your organization, what are some of the lessons that, or experiences or thoughts that you would like to share with our audience today around that importance of the team building and community building?
Yeah, team building is, you know, as in a pharmacist, I worked at the retail pharmacy. So my job was prescriptions coming, I count them, I pack them in a bottle and dispense, right? That's what a pharmacist does. So it was quite a challenge for me how do you make sure that right attitude for the team? So first thing is the hiring process, right? What sort of the hiring process do you have and how stringent and comprehensive is that? That's super important for team building, right? In early days, you know, I used to interview every pharmacist at Pocket Pills. And it's not just to ask them, hey, do you know how to fill prescription, but to understand about attitude, collaboration, and are they going to be a team player? Those are the things. I always ask questions about Give me an example where you went out of your ways to help a customer. What did you do in a retail pharmacy? These are the signals that helps you to build a strong team. Next is collaboration. How do you provide a diverse collaboration platform for your team members? And just looking at Pocket Pills, we have a team of pharmacists, we have software engineers, and at Pocket Pills, pharmacist is working side by side an engineer. And what engineer is doing is helping solve pharmacist problems, because pharmacist is pretty much doing mundane tasks, same stuff every single day. How can we put technology to remove some of those tasks, some of those barriers, and then pharmacist can help with the disease management, help with the therapy of the medications, medication consultations. So providing the collaboration, a diverse collaboration environment is essential. And lastly, the use of the technology, right? What sort of technologies you're using and how you're able to scale those things. That's my perspective.
Awesome, thank you. Farah, if you'd like to share some insights on how your organization has approached kind of the team building and culture piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. Team is one of the key factor in a company, and when you build it right and you make it and build the culture, it's hard to change it. So it's better to start properly. It's better to define the culture that you want to have in your company. And then, like senior team members can kind of educate the young people who joined us. You don't want to make a company with lots of ego, without collaboration. Everyone make a silo for themselves and do individually the project. That maybe works for some educational, for example. Okay, I'm a professor, I can work, because I come from university background, switch to industry. But when you work in an industry, everybody has the same goal, and it's company. So you all need to be oriented on that. So culture and diversity in the culture, bringing a lot of different experience, a lot of different thought and new brain, new thinking is quite important. The way that we do that, we provided like the basic of the culture should be, not to be. And then we get together, although there are many people work online, but we have occasion, all of us get together for some activity to get know and close with each other. And then when we keep video Zooming or video calling each other, at least in person, we have some interaction and we are close and friend with each other.
Awesome. So we've heard about collaboration. We've heard about keeping that connection. We've heard about kind of establishing some of the baseline principles in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Sam, I'd love to hear from you some of the things that you've been doing to really build and cultivate your team.
I just had to let go of a bunch of people on my team that didn't align with my values. And
values alignment, very important.
You can't have culture if you don't have values that people will put skin in the game for. It does not exist. It's just a commodification of words. When you put skin in the game, people know who they're serving. They know what problem they're solving because they care about it. And so you have to imagine yourself in everyone else's shoes. We do work internally called persona work, where we all have to make our own personas as we come in to start work. And nobody has to-do lists. They have their scope that's associated with their contract, and that contract is sacred. And so we have very little management tools. We have accountability. And it's very refreshing now. We're getting a lot more done with a lot less. And I wake up and feel connected with the people I work with, because together we're all serving the greater vision through our values and practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I wanted to talk a little bit about, I think you've shared some really great insights in terms of how you think about the culture of your organization, values alignment being incredibly important. I know for at UBC, we've been sort of going through some of our values work as well, because this is one of the ways in which you make a decision when things are challenging. How do you, where is that place you go to make those decisions? We also talk a lot about entrepreneurial thinking, because there are so many ways to make impact in the world. Entrepreneurship is one of those avenues, but it's not the only avenue. But I think that there's a lot in how we think about entrepreneurship that is more broadly applicable. And so from the smallest, project or challenge to the greatest. And so I was hoping that maybe each of you could share a moment when you were faced with an exceptional challenge and a little bit of the thinking or approach that you took to navigate through that challenge. Sam, if it's okay, I'd like to start with you.
I figured out a way to use pedestrian modeling software to create counter-programming for large festivals. I used to be a DJ and musical performer, producer. And as I was using this to help plan out how the flow would be the best between two stages, so that I was using fan data about who they liked and then making assumptions about if they were this kind of a fan, maybe they'd drink more, maybe they'd go to the toilets more. And as I was using this pedestrian modeling software that was actually used for the planning of train stations, for the planning of a musical festival, to make it flow better and to save them money on planning in person. The Vegas shooting happened, and I watched people get picked off like flies, climbing over fences and running back out the way that they came in, even though there was exits right beside them. And they did that because rather than be shown their exits, in order to prove they were a human and get a ticket to that event, they trained a Google AI on what traffic looks like, traffic lights look like, right? And what they could have done is shown those people where the exits were and asked them to tap where those exits are to prove they're a human. And that would be a pretty life-affirming thing to do if you invite people to gather. And so when I saw that happen, and I knew what it felt like to be on stage in front of those people and be in charge of how they feel, I knew that I was helping the wrong people. And I knew that I could do something about it. So I switched the perspective, the view in the game, in the simulation. And I started working on a CAPTCHA experience that would train the human mind on another option, not just going out the way they came in. And that was really hard to actually, go through the dark night of the soul of seeing people get shot and knowing that you could do something about it.
For me, healthcare is complex and lacks innovation. We all know that. We all agree to that. And I think the biggest hurdle I see is the regulatory challenges and ambiguous policies. And because of that, it's really hard to build a healthcare company. And from the pocketbooks perspective, as in a pharmacy, pharmacy is regulated by different regulatory bodies. So each province has different rules and regulations. For us to kind of open different pharmacies in the different provinces, we need to go through the step one by one, which was very challenging. And there was no way to kind of take a shortcut and say, hey, we have done this in BC and we can do this in Ontario. And it was quite a challenge. It took us 6 months to get a pharmacy license in BC, roughly 14 months in Manitoba. My hope was that in Manitoba it'll be faster, but that wasn't the case. And in Alberta, we still have, it's been 18 months and we yet to get the pharmacy license. So it's regulatory challenges and the policies is what kind of stopping the innovation from my perspective. And pharmacist itself, right? Just like any healthcare professional, I would like to see pharmacists able to work from home, pharmacists able to work from somewhere else. They don't have to go to the pharmacy every single day. Some of those initiatives, and how do you come up with the policies where you are increasing the digital health adoption, where you have really old policies. If you're not ready to change those policies, it'll be really hard for the digital healthcare companies to innovate. That's it.
Thank you. Farah.
Interesting. So, I want to share another like technical story that we had, and kind of share if we have to be resilient with what we are developing. It's not very straightforward, smooth way at all. So there are a lot of upside and down. And as you mentioned, it's just success is tip of the iceberg. There are a lot of failures that we usually don't talk about, right? So I want to know if there is any chemists in our audience here. Thank you. So
Oh, yeah, we've got
a few.
two chemists in the audience.
It's very dark, but yeah. So you probably confirmed that during the chemistry and during like I was teaching and I learned the same way that when you go to the chemist, think about clean technology. And the technology that we invented at Lucent was we wanted to bind all those nutrients to cellulose, deliver to the soil, that stay in the soil. It doesn't wash off. It doesn't pollute groundwater. It doesn't tie up to soil, become non-bioavailable. It stays until plant can consume that. So you don't need to over-apply. You don't need to make a lot of pollution caused out of agriculture industry, right? So I said, okay, the technology that we develop should be water-based. No organic solvent, no pollution. Water is clean, is plenty, you can work it. This is what we talk and we teach. But in reality, after we finish in a lab scale and we send the technology, the portfolio to our pilot people, after a few weeks of production, they came back to say, Farah, what should we do with this much of wastewater? It's so expensive to deal with that, right? So it's not that easy. Okay, go back. Wastewater treatment, very expensive. To become the quality that you can even release that. Getting rid of all those waters, even more expensive. So we had to step back. That's a no-go way. We had to reinvent our technology. We had to do the research more and more to figure out no wastewater, no waste chemical, going through a process with zero waste chemical, zero waste water, and then we went back to the pilot scale. So there are a lot of these back and forth until you develop something scalable and sending to the market. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank all of you for your very, very, very thoughtful answers to my questions so far. And while I have many more, we have a lot that is now popped up on Slido. And I think, Sam, to your point, this really should be more about a conversation. So I am going to turn to one of our Slido questions here that's been upvoted, popular demand. So we focused so far on the solution push side of the solution adoption. How can the ecosystem help consumers and industry discover and pull for those new solutions? So what can we do as consumers?
Push back. Push back on all the crap. There's so much crap. There's so much of how, everybody here just, bless their hearts, but, we are using crap words to speak about what we do. And if you want to make a difference about it, you, the collective you need to ask tough questions. And I think the final question to the people on stage here should be, and to every entrepreneur you talk to today, have you thought about the harm you might cause in this solution? And have you sought outside counsel about what the harm might be that you don't see. And we're the outside counsel, right? Consumers. So be vigilant, push back, and then we can start having honest conversations. And we can start changing the way we speak to include you more. So this can be about mutual uplift and respect. Shen Shen Sui. I hope I'm saying it right. Chen Chen Sui. It's a Squamish word. It means mutual uplift. It also means if you go down, I go down. So we can't really talk about adopting solutions until we take accountability as consumers of these solutions. And entrepreneurs ask the question of harm outside of our group. We stop calling our team a team, assuming there's someone else that we're up against rather than our community. We stop saying networking. We say go build community, right? This is, like, to me, the most important thing. And I think that hopefully it answers some of that question.
Thank you. Raj, you look like you had something you wanted to contribute.
Yeah, everybody has a different perspective, and my perspective is that we should give power to consumer, as Sam mentioned, right? Consumer is the king. At the end of the day, they're the one that's going to be adopting the new technology, new services. So the more the feedback you can get from consumer, the better it is going to be. And that's how the adoption, the mass adoption of digital technologies will happen when everybody's trying and sharing their feedback.
Can you say customer instead of consumer, please?
Customers.
Okay. I'm going to make a little consumer cuss jar up at the front next time. Especially for the sake of the environment, which is why we're all here.
Absolutely. We spend a lot of time ourselves thinking about some of our word choices and how we can be, more inclusive. It's always an exercise of reflection. So always appreciate when that can be kind of brought to the surface.
Can I change one of those words from inclusive to share power?
Share power.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, so far, I'm going to next question, I'm going to have you lead us off on. So before we think about accelerating adoption of solutions, how do we even know what the right solution is that we should be adopting in the first place? So that's probably the billion-dollar question, but we'll have you kick us off.
That is a billion-dollar question. That's quite important because we may come up with idea every second, right? Oh, what if it was like that? But how do we really understand that's the one we need to proceed to make a business, to go, if this solution is the right solution or not? To me, is about conversation and communication with a lot of people, with market evaluation, with customer, with networking. If the solution is about environment, you need to talk with a lot of people who are expert in this field, and you learn about the impact, the side effect. Our very first company that we started here, and then we repivot, was about marine. How we can feed marine with iron that float on the surface, make a lot of phytoplankton, and then the phytoplankton capture the CO2, grow more, and then for salmon industry, when larvae are there, was it really the good solution, the right solution? Yeah, but was it mature enough to apply? No, we have no infrastructure for adding anything to the ocean. What would be the next step? So when you stay at this stage of solution, you have to step back, repivot. For agriculture, yes, you know what is happening. You know how pollution can impact our daily life these days, right? But it's very hard to figure that out. But if I was the one, if the solution is for a specific area, I would go and learn a lot about that area to see if my solution is adaptable for that or not.
Awesome. Thank you. I know we don't have a lot of time left, so I'm going to bounce around to a couple of questions here. And so, Raj, or actually Sam, I wanted to bring this question to you because you talked about the importance of, values alignment, but also that company culture. And I think this is a really interesting question that's been posed here. Like, company culture, is it like a top down, a bottom down, somewhere in the middle? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that you need to have skin in the game. You can't outsource sacrifice, right? That's sort of what we've done for the last 500 years, 600 years, and it's not great, right? And so I think if you're going to create values alignment, you have to really look at who has their skin in the game. Is somebody else, am I profiting at someone else's expense? Have I considered the other and not just myself? Entrepreneurship and the people that feed off of it is a gift of creativity, will, and grit to see your vision through. The only thing that's standing in your way is the entire world, and that's not an opposition. It can very much receive you with welcome and open arms, right? And so I think what I think personally for value alignment is to ask a lot of tough questions to your team and create conversation. Nothing top down is resilient. There is a span of control that our thinking minds can manage. And so you should think about, when you create your organization, the span of control as your ability to focus, and not how do I control everything, but how do I control my focus?
Awesome, thank you. Raj, how many folks work for your company today?
Roughly 200.
Roughly 200. Was there like a certain inflection point where you sort of went from like 10 to 50, or what was sort of that kind of magic number? So that's sort of my question, part one of that question. And when that happened, did you need to think about like how were your values not being done? I mean, as founders in the early days, so much passion of what it is we're trying to build. Cut to an organization with 200 people, how do you keep the integrity of values and culture intact? So was there a turning point, and how did you kind of keep the values and culture intact?
Yeah, there was, and I believe that's kind of every company goes through that process. When you're like a 10 or 15 team members, it's easy to communicate, right? I can be part of majority of the meetings and talk about, as in a founder, what's my mission, what we wanted to achieve, and kind of instill those things into team members. But at the time around when you start getting 30, 40 team members, and from there you suddenly, oh, we are 120 people now. And you don't know what teams are doing. Like, do they really understand what we're building? So I think what we did at Pocket Pills, it took us around 3 months. So we did a top-down and bottom-up approach, asking every employee that what they're doing at Pocket Pill, what's their mission, and explaining these are the company missions, that's what we want to achieve. How do you relate to this mission? What sort of responsibility do you have to the company and to the customers? And that was a great exercise. It took us almost 3 months, as I mentioned, and after that we had a town hall, and where we talked about, we went through each and every value and aligned the goals. This is what we did at Pocket Pills, but I still feel that the hiring process is where it matters. Like, when you're bringing a new person into the team, you have to make sure that the person is open-minded, they have the attitude, because the team has to be mission-driven, right? You're going after some crazy mission, people probably call you insane. You're not gonna do that. Like, for Pocket Pills perspective, right, as in a pharmacist, when we started digital pharmacy, we are the first company to start digital pharmacy in 2018. There was no option for Canadians to fill online prescriptions that time. And when I went with this idea to a couple of my friends, hey, this is what I would like to do, and they was, are you crazy? This is not possible. How are you going to provide consultation? How are you going to do this and that? So you kind of bring the team members that they believe in your idea, they believe in the mission, and everybody's obsessed about the mission. That's how we instill the culture. And bringing the new team members, there has to be a very stringent hiring process. Otherwise, team is going to fall apart.
Awesome, thank you. Sadly, we are coming to the end of our discussion. I feel like we probably could be here all afternoon. There were some amazing questions that were asked in Slido. And so if our speakers are able to hang around a little bit on the other side, as I think we're going into lunch, I would encourage you to perhaps approach them directly with your questions. But again, I really want to thank all of you for, taking the time to be here today, being so thoughtful in your preparation, and I think really speaking from the heart, which is something that can sometimes get lost with, we're building our companies every day, where's the heart? So I felt that we had a lot of heart and soul in this discussion today. So thank you, Farah, Raj, and Sam, greatly appreciated.